Why don't we see stars in pictures and videos? And even during modern stuff like photos and videos of launches and on the ISS and stuff like that. I mean, this is actually a great question since we tend to associate a black sky with nighttime here on Earth. As a former professional photographer, I love answering this one because it's right in my wheelhouse. The answer is actually simple. It's daytime. Why would you see stars? Just because the sky's black doesn't mean the scene is dark, despite what we're used to here on Earth. However, seeing a black sky doesn't automatically mean you'll see stars. The sun is by far the most dominant light source in our solar system. It's more than 10 billion times brighter to us than Sirius, the next brightest star in the sky. So the reason we often don't see stars in images taken from space is because there is still daylight exposure in these images, and the scene is being fully illuminated by the sun. And don't forget, the moon has a day and night cycle too, roughly every 14 days instead of every 12 hours like here on Earth. So when it's daytime on the moon, which all Apollo landing missions intentionally were, you need to set your camera's exposure accordingly. If your eyes or a camera is exposed to broad daylight, you have to adjust your settings so they're the right sensitivity to expose your scene correctly. With a camera, it means closing up the aperture, increasing your shutter speed, and shooting with a low ISO film or setting. In our eyes, our pupils act like an aperture and get really small to let in less light when it's bright, and our pupils dilate a lot when it's dark in order to let more light in. Now, of course, you could change your settings to shoot stars in these photos on the moon, but then everything else would be blown out and completely white. So the thing that you traveled 400,000 kilometers to photograph and document is now just a blown out white blob. In fact, you can do this from home because we experienced this exact same thing here on Earth when trying to take a picture of the moon. Just try it yourself. Try taking a photo of the moon from Earth that's properly exposed so you can see all the details of the surface of the moon, and try to get the stars in the exact same shot in a single exposure. You basically have to pick and choose, either expose for the bright reflective surface of the moon and end up with a dark sky, or expose for the dim stars and end up with the blown out white blob for the moon. It's the exact same thing we're dealing with here, trying to take a picture of the moon and the stars in the same exposure, but we're just doing it from further away.